Hello and welcome. It is week 2 already. And we're going into Thursday Night Football against the Browns here on the Orange and Black Insider virtual tailgate and pregame show presented by Narragansett. We're going to start off right away. Well, first off, I am Matt Minich. John Sheeran all the way to your, I'm going to say right, probably, unless this is mirror image. I don't know. As usual, Anthony Cosenza will be joining us soon. But today we've got a special guest because, look, me and John have a lot invested in Joe Burrow being really good. So we need to bring in an unbiased opinion on Joe Burrow's premiere. And that's Mark Schofield. Mark, how you doing?
Gentlemen, it's great to be with you tonight. I'm going to try to be unbiased. Let's just get it out of the way. This is my QB1. And I want to see him do well because then it makes me look good, sort of by extension. So we're going to try to be unbiased, but it might be a little bit tough.
QB wants a hot take, Mark. I don't know if a lot of people have this as.
I mean, look, it was a tough battle there between him and Anthony Gordon from Washington State, neck and neck for QB1. But yes, it was, John. It was a spicy take. It was a little bit too spicy for the timeline. It's one of those takes I've been trying to teach the kids. I consider myself, Twitter dad. Put the spiciest takes in the podcasts, right? Put them in the articles. Don't put them on the timeline because everybody will see it. So I hid the Joe Burrow QB1 take on podcasts and stuff, but eventually people found out.
So is he still QB1? I mean, no other rookies played in week 1, but what did you think of his premiere?
Let's put it this way. When Allen Robinson took down all the references to the Bears on social media, and there were rumors flying that he might request a trade, I got the assignment, write the best possible trade destinations for Allen Robinson. And I put the Bengals in there. And at the end of that little segment on the Bengals, I wrote, and let's be honest, already Joe Burrow would be the best quarterback that Allen Robinson has played with in his entire football career. And that's including Christian Hackenberg and Mitchell Trubisky, who's obviously a 4-year veteran, and Blake Bortles. I was very impressed with his start. Now, yes, there were some things that he screwed up. I mean, that interception is one of those, you can't do that. You just can't make that play. He missed some throws, and he was the first to tell you after the game, look, the throw to AJ Green, even the one to Ross, which was going to be a tough catch. It was end line of the end zone. Like, even if he puts it on him, I'm not sure Ross gets both feet down. He would be the first to tell you that, yeah, he made some mistakes. But when you see that drive that he led at the end of that game, he made some throws that veterans aren't going to make. He made some reads that veterans aren't going to make. He had an out route near the end of that he had to squeeze in because of a trap coverage. And if he's a step late with that, it's picked. If he's a step late with that, that game is over. But he makes the read and he makes the throw. I was extremely impressed with the debut. I was as impressed with him in the post game as I was in game. Yes, there were mistakes. But as I wrote in the aftermath, if you're a Bengals fan, I think you have hope right now.
Yeah, he did specifically mention the overthrow of Green, and the rest of us thought John Ross should have caught that ball, but he said that was an overthrow. How do you think he was in the pocket in terms of was he forced to rush his throws? Was that why he was off target sometimes, you think, or not stepping into throws because the guy's in front of him? What was your thought about that?
I think that there was a mix of those moments. Sometimes I feel like he felt a little pressure coming to him, so he felt like he had to speed things up. There were some times where pressure was kind of, those trash at your feet moments where you can't really step into things. I think on the Green one, he just sometimes as a quarterback, your eyes get bigger than your stomach, to use an expression there. And you think you've got one and you just almost get excited and overshoot it. That's been known to happen too. But those are things that will come. I mean, I think to see where he is from a mental perspective, especially given no preseason games, no rookie OTAs, no full training camps, none of that stuff, no rookie minicamp, he's ahead of where you'd expect him to be. And I think Zach Taylor deserves a lot of credit in the sort of the game plan that they called. I mean, one of his first big passing plays of the game, was it any surprise that it was a 5-man protection? I mean, that's what he was doing last year at LSU. So that showed me right off the bat early in that game that Zach Taylor is going to put him in familiar territory. He's going to put him in designs and schemes and concepts that are familiar for him, and that's what you want to do for a young quarterback. So I think, look, it's a loss, and it's a painful one given the way it ended. But I think, again, you have to be happy with what you saw on Sunday.
You kind of alluded to it towards the 5-man protections and how I'm sorry, Matt, were you saying?
Go ahead. Yeah.
You were kind of alluding to like the 5-man protections aspect about it and how successful Burrow was down in LSU. But obviously the offensive line talent in Cincinnati is a little bit different compared to what he had at LSU relative to the competition. How would you propose to balance that now? Like, because you want to implement as many 3-by-2 formations with empty protections as possible, but you can't really do that when you're facing Myles Garrett 2 times a year and Joey Bosa every now and then.
Yeah, John, and I think that's first off, that's a fantastic question. It's obviously something Zach Taylor, this offensive staff, they have to really think about and work through. I think a good model is kind of what they've done down in Houston with Deshaun Watson. You know, they've had trouble protecting him, and part of that is, and John Harbaugh actually talked about it today. Look, Watson holds onto the ball a long time to let things happen. He still takes a lot of sacks. I mean, he was sacked like 61 times 2 years ago. I think it was 49 last year. But what they did last year to sort of help Watson deal with some of the protection issues, they did 2 things. A lot of the time they would go empty, kind of like we're talking about the 3-by-2 with some stack slots that give Watson pre-snap a chance to sort of scan the field, see where everybody is, spread everybody out, and attack them from empty formations. Because, again, especially if you've got a 2-man stack like they did at the time with, you know, DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, like Cincinnati, Kansas City couldn't stop it in the regular season. They ran it like 5 or 6 times down the stretch out of those empty formations, out of stack slots. It gives him an easy field to read and an easy to find throw and the way to get the ball out quickly. The other thing they do is to go in the complete opposite direction. There were times where they would go condensed, heavy formations, 2-man concepts, a lot of maximum protection schemes where you can still attack a defense. I mean, if anybody here who's listened and watched Monday night, that touchdown pass from Daniel Jones to Darius Slayton, that was out of a 13 personnel, 3 tight end look, heavy formation, play action with just 2 routes. Evan Ingram on a dig, Darius Slayton on a post. You could still attack defenses and stress them all the way down the field out of these heavy condensed formations using max protection concepts. So those are 2 things you could do, 2 wildly different things, especially if you've got like a 1st and 10, a 2nd and 3, you come out heavy 13 personnel, 12 personnel, you show them run action, you have a chance to hit those throws downfield. So those are the things I think they can do to sort of protect Burrow and still attack and stress a defense.
And actually, that play action you mentioned, so that is something that the Bengals ran last year. That was their favorite play action play last year. They ran it quite a bit out of the bunch, so more out of 11 personnel actually. But they did run it out of 12 personnel once, and you know, absolutely you can run it out of bigger personnel groups and keeping guys in. So it'd be interesting to see how that comes along, you know, and what they do with that, how they mix the 2 polar opposites there.
Yeah, I mean, they're 2 wildly different ways. I mean, they're 2 wildly different ways to do it. But that's sort of the beauty of it, is that you're keeping the defense guessing, you're keeping them trying to figure out, you know, what you're going to be doing. You're keeping them having to mix and match your personnel. And I think those are good ways to attack a defense and protect your young quarterback.
I mean, did you see anything that surprised, like, was a negative surprise for you, like an alarm at all, that maybe you thought he might be a little bit better in starting off?
I mean, I do think the interception was very un-Burrow-like. I mean, when you saw him at LSU, those weren't the kinds of things that he would make. Those weren't the kinds of mistakes that he would make. You know, he certainly threw interceptions at LSU, including last year, but they were usually he was pressured, he got hit, you know, defense made a good play. You know, they were reasonable risks that he was taking when he was throwing interceptions last year for LSU. This was a head scratcher, and it was a lack of situational awareness. You're already in plus territory. It's 1st down. You're outside the pocket. Like, there's no need to try that. You know, you could just throw it away. You're outside the pocket. You're not going to get grounded. You're going to be okay. That was the most sort of head scratching moment for me. You know, what I really like to see, what I was really surprised by, and Matt, I double checked this with you to make sure, the touchdown run was an audible. And, you know, if you're given your rookie quarterback in game 1 out of an empty set, the freedom to make that call, you have confidence in him. And I think that was huge to see. And it was huge to learn that wasn't check at the line.
And the balls to call your own number there too.
Yeah. I mean, just absolute onions to do it. And look, nobody, out of whatever anybody has said about Joe Burrow, nobody has said that the guy doesn't have onions. He certainly does. Like, he is gutsy. You saw that last year at LSU. You need that attitude as a quarterback. I mean, you have to be a bit of an egotistical maniac to play the position and play it well. And I think Burrow checks that box, and that's a good thing.
Hey, Mark, Anthony Cosenza. Hopefully you can hear me. Thanks for joining the program. Sorry I was a little late there, guys. I wanted to ask you, I felt like it was a pretty good segue into what you were just talking about there. I saw earlier on the NFL Network, Ed Ogeron, his coach at LSU, I guess is releasing a book, and a couple of stories in the book. Burrow, apparently he had to break up fights with Burrow and Patrick Queen, Burrow and Devin White because of certain things in practices. And I guess it's a comment and a question, a little bit to your point there, but does that fire, that kind of aggressiveness in Burrow surprise you at all based on the fact that you've been covering him for as long as you have?
Yeah, Anthony, it doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, when you think about, as I was just talking about, when you play this position and you see the guys that play it to an extremely high level, the Mannings, the Bradys, you have to have that ultimate belief, that supreme belief in yourself, and that ultimate fire that you can self-motivate no matter what. And, as somebody that first started seeing Tom Brady and watched Tom Brady first as a fan, and then somebody that covered him, look, I've often joked that you get into an elevator with Tom Brady and you won't get to your floor before he reminds you he's picked 199. And that's like right now. And that's who Tom Brady is. And I think the great ones have that ability to find motivation from within. And Joe Burrow, I think, is the absolute same way, had to go to LSU, couldn't get the job at his hometown at Ohio State. People didn't believe in him. People passed him over. You saw it in his Heisman speech talking about how Coach O was the only one that believed in him. He's going to use that motivation to this point. And, going up against those LSU defenses, guys like Devin White and Patrick Queen in practice, that's going to be competitive stuff, and it's that old expression, iron sharpens iron. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised to hear stories like that, Anthony. And I think you don't get to a national title. You don't get to a Heisman, if you don't have that ability to self-motivate. And look at the guy on the other side of the field tonight in Baker Mayfield, who might need to self-motivate a little bit if he's going to keep his job, let's be honest. So, yeah, I mean, you have to have that as a QB.
Not really a Burrow question, but, I mean, Matt, you can answer this too. As two film junkies out of the Northeast region, what productive and healthy things did you guys do when the All-22 wasn't dropped?
I mean, look, outside of pulling my hair out, John, which I did probably more than I should, I cleaned. I've picked up modeling again. That used to be something I was doing. I was working on a model of an F-18 that's somewhere around here.
I think you're talking about Calvin Klein or something.
No Christian McCaffrey situation here, my friend. No, yeah, I mean, look, John, this was a testy 72 hours for the timeline. The timeline was ready to really self-implode. And when you have Justice Mosqueda basically pulling a Liam Neeson from Taken and just being like, hey, NFL, I'm going to release NFL playbooks every hour on the hour until you do this. Like, it was dicey there for a minute. I really thought we were all going to just start killing each other.
No, he was definitely Robin Hood in that situation.
Yeah, for the people. I mean, Justice Hood. I mean, who said it? It was Matty Brown, who covers the Seahawks, said it was Justo Leaks, which I thought was fantastic. Like a play on WikiLeaks. That was great.
Yeah, that was rough. You mentioned before Burrow's audible and how impressive that was. They're talking, I believe it was on NFL Network earlier today, that Burrow, they said he was going to have control at the line of scrimmage. It seems like he already does. It definitely looked like he was making his protection calls and everything. And not an odd thing in the NFL NFL quarterbacks should be able to check the protection. But Mark, from your experience, how odd is that for a rookie starting in week one to be in charge of the offensive line in addition to everything else he's doing?
Yeah, it's pretty odd. I mean, it's pretty rare to see. I mean, we've seen recent examples of, Josh Rosen, for example, a quarterback who, look, I'll admit it, I had him as QB1. And I, like others, thought that part of the reason why he would be a good pro was, the mental side of it. Like, it seemed like he was NFL ready. Pro ready was the phrase we all used. Then it comes out when he finally gets to Miami, he had never learned how to even identify the mic, like simple stuff, like basic NFL 101 stuff. And so, especially now with so many of today's offenses in the college game, where you get to the line of scrimmage, you get a look at the defense, and then you turn to the sideline and you wait, and they hold up the card, and it's got 4 funny pictures on it and emojis, and that's how you call the play. Like, when you have a quarterback who can do what Burrow did as a rookie, and I think you have to give a lot of credit to Joe Brady in the way that they ran their offense last year. That's heady stuff. That's advanced stuff that you typically don't see from a rookie, man.
All right. Well, I asked Mark for 10 minutes, and he's already given us 15. You guys have any?
I had one more.
Let's go, Anthony. Keep it rolling.
I know. I'm going over. I'm the late guy, and I'm keeping.
No, I love it. Let's go.
Jeez Louise. I guess, and I don't want to end on a sour note here, but I spoke about this on our podcast this week, and as a guy who's watched a lot of Bengals football and seen a lot of talented players, both as a quarterback, I guess the one concern that some of us cynical fans or those that, have been following this team for a long time would have is, we all believe that Burrow's the type of guy that can kind of rise above organizational deficiencies from an outsider's perspective, meaning that yourself who has not maybe been a Bengals fan or followed this team intimately for a while. Is that a shared sentiment? I mean, do you think that at some point this is going to be the guy that wins these big games, gets them through the playoffs, or is there just too many organizational deficiencies that he has to overcome?
Right, and I think that is a valid question, Anthony. I mean, I think a lot of sort of outside observers that have watched Joe Burrow, that have studied him, that saw the rise of Burrow last year, and that are rooting for him, are hoping that he doesn't get ruined. And we've seen this from other young quarterbacks too. I mean, you could look at some of the other young quarterbacks around the league. Take Sam Darnold right now. People that are believers in Sam Darnold are starting to wonder, look, is Adam Gase ruining him? You could even say the same about Baker Mayfield. I mean, he's now on his third system in 3 years. I mean, you start to wonder, are these guys going to get ruined? We want to see Burrow be successful because he's the kind of player that you want to root for. And I think it does get back to, Anthony, that sort of competitive toughness, that inner fire that we were talking about. Some guys have the ability to rise above that stuff. When you look at what Burrow did, 2 years ago at LSU, they got off to a bit of a shaky start 2 years ago. And it looked like, that was a bit of a lethargic offense, really run heavy. It seemed like there were rumblings that perhaps Burrow wasn't going to quite stick down there. So people sort of forgot about them. They lost that game to Alabama. Burrow looked bad in that game. He looked lost. People wrote them off. And they ignored that down the stretch and into their bowl game, they were one of the top 5 teams in the country. And largely it was because of what Burrow was starting to put together as a quarterback. And again, you don't have that kind of turnaround, that kind of end to a season when people were writing you off, if you don't have the mental toughness to rise above all that outside noise, people doubted you, people looking at the incoming 5-star freshman, that they recruited. I think Burrow has that mental fortitude, that mental strength, that if there's outside noise, if there's, like you said, that organizational dysfunction, he's a good enough player and a strong enough athlete to rise above that for this franchise.
People talk about that stuff all the time, but meanwhile, this is a team that, talking to John last week, he was talking about how Marvin Lewis got the head coaching job when he was 6 years old and didn't get fired until he was in college. And, they've basically had 2 quarterbacks this century before Burrow. So, they're doing a little better than some things. So,
yeah.
All right, once again, Mark, we'll get you out of here and grab some grub before we check out the game. But appreciate you joining us. You work for just about everybody else in the SB Nation platform. So glad you could give us some time tonight.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a blast tonight. This was fun. Enjoy the game. Hopefully you guys get a dub.
Thanks,
All right,
Mark.
thank you. And I'm going to try something now. We're going to see if it works. So. Oh, there we go. It's what you've all been waiting for.
Hey, I know that play.
All right, that was the fresh catch of the game. Hope the audio worked. So we are back. Anthony's occasionally here. We keep losing him, but that's all right. So let's go beyond Burrow. We got some good Burrow talk in there, but let's talk about the offensive line. Definitely gave them some problems last week. It did break Fred Johnson starting at right guard with Suafilo out. What are you guys thinking about this O-line this week and the matchup heading in and seeing Myles Garrett and all those guys?
Sketchy. I'm a little worried, and then you've got Suafilo out now. He's not a world beater per se, but he was a guy that was showing at least a little bit of steadiness before he went out. So
I believe he was rated on PFF this week too.
Yeah, so that's an issue. And John and I spoke at length a bit about Bobby Hart on our podcast, and really, it's interesting that he had the higher PFF score than like Jonah Williams because of such the egregious plays that he, the penalties, the sacks allowed, that sort of thing. But he was doing some stuff in the run game. I assume, even though they want to spread things out, and you guys are much more wise than I am on this front, but I assume they're going to give Bobby Hart some form of help this week, be it with additional tight end, maybe a running back there, even though they do want to split things out. And maybe that's why Auden Tate is a healthy scratch this week.
Ian Reeder in the YouTube comments section says, O-line is going to put me on suicide watch tonight. And my question for him is, where have you been for the last 4 years? Because O-line hasn't been very good since, I think, 2015. I know Bobby Hart isn't a Jim Turner guy because he came here before him. But at some point, where's the leash? I wonder if this game, in my mind, is very similar to their Thursday night game in 2017, where the Bengals won 2 weeks without a touchdown, and they fired Kinsey. They promoted Bill Lazor as offensive coordinator after that game. I mean, if it were me, Bobby Hart's blocking for his job tonight. Because they can't keep up. They can't keep this up for 4 months. They can't have him alone allowing Burrow to get pressured more than 5 times a game. And even if it is Joey Bosa and Myles Garrett, it doesn't matter. Like, he's expected to keep him clean. He's not doing his job. PFF grade be damned, because I guarantee you they don't give 2 craps about that. Whatever his PFF score is, even if there is some minor weight. Even if there is some minor weight to it, I think Fred Johnson started at right guard because he took snaps at right guard with the first team during training camp. And that was after Billy Price initially started ahead of Suafilo when Suafilo was on the pup list. But I think they want to keep Price on the bench just so they have that extra player with center experience. So I think they want to give Fred some chances because they already gave him some chances in training camp and whatnot. But I mean, Bobby Hart doesn't have a good game in this game. Like, I don't know if there is a scenario where you bench him at all for Fred Johnson if it's not after another poor game tonight.
I mean, that's the great situation is you've got Johnson, who kind of some of the beat writers were saying that they didn't think he was ready to really push it at right tackle. So put him in at right guard, and now he's got a chance to prove it. And, maybe if he has a good night and Bobby doesn't have a great night, maybe this opens up that window, or at least by the time Xavier Suafilo is back, that it opens up that window that maybe he's, a little bit more in the mix with that stuff. So, as we talk about that, and we were kind of talking about a little bit with Mark too, in terms of being able to go wide and do 5-man protections, let Burrow use his strength and see the field. I mean, do you think it's feasible? Do you think it's something that can be done with the O-line they have?
I think early on they're gonna have to do something to neutralize Garrett a little bit, whether that's keep Uzomah, a sample to chip him, or keep Bernard, or mix in the backfield. I think they're gonna want to utilize as many empty sets as possible because that does feel strange. It comes down to where Garrett's just winning rep after rep, like every few passing plays, and he's just completely disrupting the flow. Then at some point you do need to adjust. It sucks that they're in this position because, I mean, even Bobby Hart had some decent reps against Joey Bosa in week 1, and just like the lows are too low. And if it comes down to a situation where Garrett is getting his hands on Burrow for snap during this game, then they're going to have to keep some extra bodies in there. So, I mean, Mark made some great points about how do you balance going in empty and going in heavy in order to give the quarterback either pre-snap looks to get the ball out quickly, or to also help him with extra protection while also taking advantage of that pre-snap formation with how the secondary reacts. So, it's up to the Bengals coaching staff to implement those things and also to recognize that, hey, if this is a weakness that's beyond repair, we got to do something about it.
Yeah, and we look at this matchup, and I think we were talking off air that some of these guys in the secondary for the Browns, it's like, we watch a lot of film and we scout a lot of players, and even we're looking at this and saying, who is this guy? So I mean, you'd really like to be able to go 5 wide and chuck the ball around, but I mean, I personally, I think that's the game plan to win the game. Just get rid of the ball fast. But what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's feasible to be able to live in that?
I think so. I think regardless of how the run game goes, they should utilize play action basically every chance that they see fit. Because I think there's a situation where going up against Terrence Mitchell, Tavier Thomas, you have Anderson Deo and Carl Joseph as their safeties. There are opportunities to create space on long developing plays, and you can buy some more time by utilizing play action, whether that's out of the shotgun or out of the I formation. I think there's going to be some RPOs mixed in there as well. But this is a secondary that needs to be exploited because of how it is. If the strength of this team is that the receivers, then utilize that strength, especially in a situation like this. So do whatever you need to do to buy Burrow some extra time or to slow down the pass rush one way or the other. You can create more separation on some long developing and deeper routes compared to what you couldn't do against the Chargers because you had Casey Hayward and Nazir Adderley and Chris Harris Jr. locking down some of the receivers for most of the game.
Well, it looks like we have lost Anthony at the moment, but the good news is we will be represented on the West Coast. We are turning now to the Narragansett High Neighbor fan hotline, and joining us today is Yaz. Yes, how you doing?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure because I just got connected to my AirPods. I'm good. I'm so excited. How's everybody doing?
Great. I'm loving the John Ross jersey.
Okay. Is that Jordan Shipley?
I know that somebody was going to say this,
but
it's not a John Ross jersey. We can pretend, but this was my first Bengals jersey I ever got, and it actually says my last name on the back, but it's like super old, as you can tell. It's like peeling off and stuff, but it's like an old one from when I was young, and I was like, you know what? I saw it in my bedroom, and I was like, I should put it on for this. So here it is, but you know what? We can pretend it's John Ross.
It's the real deal throwback. I like that. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, my first Bengal jersey was a custom as well. Like they used to have these like full uniform kits you could buy, and they put whatever the number was just the best player in the team, but they put whatever name you wanted on it. But I was like 3 years old or something, and
so awesome.
Boomer Esiason was the quarterback, so it's number 7. And my parents asked me what name do you want on the back, and I'm not going to say Esiason when I'm 3 years old. So I've still got that jersey. It says Boomer on the back.
That is so awesome. What a cool story. I honestly didn't get this. I think I was like maybe 13 or 14 because it wasn't until around that age when I started following the Bengals. But I mean, it's still okay and it still counts. But my kids one day will definitely have jerseys from the times that they are just little babies. Before they're even out of the womb, I'm already going to have jerseys lined up in their closets for them. I can't wait.
So what is the fan origin story? How did you start becoming a fan and creating this following that you have?
So it started with me and my love for Chad Ochocinco. My family is all Raiders and Niners fans. I'm from Northern California. And as I was growing up, my brother-in-law would always talk to me about sports and stuff. And it was a really cool thing for me because I felt like I was getting so close to my sister's boyfriend. And I loved that. And he would always talk about Chad Johnson. And it was right when he was in his prime, all the funny celebrations, stuff like that. And I just grew to love him. And as time went on, I just kind of declared myself a Bengals fan. And it was when he was doing his, every time he'd go to an away game, he would host a lunch with the fans the day before. I was about a freshman in high school, and Chad did that in Oakland. So I went and I stood in line and waited, and I was one of the fans that got in. And when we got into the lunch, he came over and he sat and he was talking with me, and I don't know why. Like, I really can't remember, but I wrote him a rap. Like I don't know why I wrote him a rap, but I wrote him a rap, and he found this other guy and he was like, recite this rap for us. And the guy did it, and we were all cracking up, and we just shared this moment. And then I ended up writing down like my Twitter handle on the piece of paper. And the next, Chad had told me, tomorrow I'm going to play with the rap in my pocket. It's going to give me good luck. And I'm like, okay, like I can't wait. So then the next day we're on our way home from the game, and I get a tweet from Chad, and it says, cool rap, it's still in my pocket. And I just, as a like young fan, freaked out. It's when Twitter wasn't that cool yet. Like, it was just the coolest thing. And ever since, I was like, I'm riding this bus all the way to the end. And as the years go on, I've just continued to love them even more.
Wow, that is incredibly cool. The I mean, can you still recite it? You wanna lay it down for us right now?
At all. And it actually, like, I'm so embarrassed thinking about it, but I've always been kind of like weird and like crazy, so it makes sense. That's very in character for me, but I do think about it sometimes. I'm like, why did I do that? It's a little bit cringy, but hey, it makes for a good story, so I'll take it.
I mean, if you polled like every single Bengals fan in America, I think 80% of them are going to say Chad Johnson's the reason why I was a Bengals fan to begin with. You know, it just transcends literally every demographic with it.
Yeah, and
most of them are crazy because you kind of got to be a little crazy in this, to survive all the heartbreak that we've been through. So.
Oh, I agree. I was looking through my laptop yesterday, just at like old Bengals stuff that has happened, and I found so many videos. And it's funny because I found a bunch of videos from the heartbreaking game back in 2016, and I was watching those, and I have videos throughout the day of like when they scored, and I'm like jumping off the couch screaming, I'm so excited. And then I have another video that was taken after the game, and I'm like cussing about the game. And it's just so funny to like look back through all my stuff and see. I have a picture of me and Chad, but honestly I'm way too embarrassed to share it. I looked like a different human. I had like braces, and it's just all bad. But yeah, I've loved being a Bengals fan, honestly, and I own it. And I'm just trying to like create more Bengals fans anywhere. So that's why I've been super over the top and kind of crazy on Twitter, because I do get tweets here and there from people that are like, I don't watch football, but you make me want to be a Bengals fan. And I'm like, come on over. We have space for you. So I'm just hoping to create Bengals fans all over the world. We'll see.
That's awesome. And it's definitely, the time is right. The other thing, like we said, you got to be a little crazy in this fan base. To me, like, there's some negativity out there, but I think you have to be really positive. In particular, at this time of year when there's still a lot of promise, there's still a lot of hope. You've got to be positive. And you put out a pep talk. You gave the finger to the refs, but other than that, you were very positive.
Yeah.
For Bengals fans that are still hurting from Sunday and the way that game ended, give us a little pep talk. Make us feel good about life.
Oh man. Okay. So yeah, pep talks with Yaz, that started because I'm not one to like slander players, even though I do get angry with them. I'm like, you know what? We need to give them all the positive energy. So that's how I started pep talks with Yaz, and I'll have them every week. But after last week, I did see some negativity on Twitter, and I was like, you know what? I think I need to just tell these people, get hyped. It's going to be okay. It's actually so amazing that the game tonight falls on 100 years of football. We love that, right? So it's very fitting. And I think that the best thing about the game tonight being during prime time is that it's our chance to prove ourselves and to prove that this is a new team and that we're going to get better each week. And after tonight, one team is going to be 0-2, and it's not going to be us. So we have nothing to worry about, Bengals fans.
Yaz, what's up? It's Anthony. Thanks for coming on the show. How are you?
I'm good. I'm having fun. Honestly, I'm gonna tell you guys, before every game, I start to get super anxious. I'm naturally a very anxious person, and like we're nearing the time where I'm like kind of freaking out a little bit, kind of sweating. I'm like, calm down. It's funny because a lot of my friends are always like, I want to watch the Bengals game with you, and I'm like, yeah, come on over. But then I think once they get to my house, they're like, you're no fun, because I'm just kind of like sitting there focused and like, don't talk to me, tunnel vision, me and the TV. That's all that matters.
I know that feeling well. I want you to relay if you can. And I apologize for the noise. I'm actually in a car right now.
Oh,
I
it's
would like you to. I believe you are in Southern California. Are you not?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so you need to tell these folks outside of Cincinnati the plight of being a Bengals fan in Southern California, because I find it very difficult myself. I'm in Southern California, and trying to explain my Bengal fan badge that I try and wear to
Yeah.
folks out here, it becomes difficult. So I want you to relay that plight to the rest of the folks here.
Yeah, you know what, you guys, it actually is very tough. And another thing that is funny, so some of the feedback that I got to Pep Talks with Yaz is like, you're being delusional, like, yeah, you're being positive, but like, be realistic, stuff like that. And I'm like, no, being a Bengals fan in LA, you're forced to be optimistic. And maybe being a Bengals fan in Cincinnati is a little bit different because you kind of get to like sulk in it when things go wrong. But here you have to own it. You have to own it at all times because you have all forces coming against you. So I think that's why I'm so optimistic and positive about the team, because I know that even if they do well, somebody's always going to have something to say. Somebody's always going to chirp at me. The best thing is when people try to talk about Cincinnati and they're like, what even is there in Cincinnati? And I'm like, I would leave LA today to move to Cincinnati, so I don't want to hear it. But it has been hard. There are a few Ohio bars around here, which I'm sure you know about, which is cool when you get to go there and just be one with other Bengals fans. But I would say that my skin got thicker during college because that was the time that everybody was like, not only were they like, oh, you're a girl and you like sports, they also were like, and you picked the Bengals. And that's when I decided like that was my shield of armor. And I was like, nothing is going to disrupt my peace. So I think as long as you own it, it's okay. We're good to go. We're not going to be bothered.
That's pretty interesting because I didn't grow up in Ohio myself. I was born in Ohio, but I've moved around a little bit and never really been in the right region. And I tend to be a little bit more positive than a lot of the people out there. So I wonder if that's from my experience, and I didn't even realize that that's what it was.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, that's my guess. That's the way I look at it. But I made it to Cincinnati for the first time last season in November. And I remember just feeling so happy to just be at Paul Brown Stadium and to be like surrounded by Bengals fans. And I went to a bar before the game and there was a bunch of Steelers fans there. And I just wanted to be like, get out of here. You do not belong. Like, this is my moment. And I want to be surrounded by Bengals fans only, which it's funny because when I do meet Bengals fans, I've been to a lot of games where they've played on the West Coast. I've seen them in against the Broncos, the Cardinals, Raiders, 49ers. I've been to a bunch of the games, and anytime I do see a Bengals fan there, I'm always quick to run up and be like, hello, like, go Bengals, whatever. And they always kind of look at me like, who is this weird girl and why is she talking to me? But I'm like, you don't understand. I'm not used to seeing Bengals fans. Get over here. So that's fun. But yeah, you know what? I love it. It's a good time.
So this is crazy. I grew up, like I was born in Ohio.
Yeah.
I went to games at Riverfront when I was too young to remember, but I've seen the Bengals in Kansas City. I've seen them in Minnesota, and I've seen them at Gillette. The first game at Paul Brown Stadium I ever went to last year against the Steelers.
No way. We were both experiencing something for the first time, and we had no idea.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That is awesome. I do. I'm hoping that the having some fans at the games goes well so that they can open up a few more, because I'm there. I don't know how I'm going to get my hands on some tickets, but I will figure it out. I'm on a mission and it's going to happen. So I'm hoping to make it there this season as well.
Yes, I think you've been to a Bengal gym tailgate.
Yeah.
So he was on our show for week 1, so you guys are back to back. Can you give us a little bit of a picture as to what that spread is when he's got it full go? Because it sounds like a pretty awesome time when he's got it going on.
Yeah, it was amazing. And, I went there, and obviously I don't know anybody in Cincinnati. So the way that I figured it out was I just went on Twitter and I had tweeted out, I'm like, hey, I'm going for the first time. Like, somebody hang out with me. Where do I go? What do I do? And so many people were replying, Bengal Gym. And he ended up sending me a message, and he's like, this is where we're located. Come find me. And I was trying, but obviously never been to the stadium before. So it was so hard to find him. And we're walking down the lot, and I remember walking down the parking lot, and there's so many different fans, but all of a sudden you just hear like very loud music, a huge crowd. He had a band, there's like a taco truck, everything, and you're walking up and you're like, this is where I'm meant to be. And I got there a little bit late because we couldn't find it, and I remember I was so hungry, but they had like tacos, they had Bloody Mary bar. It was awesome, and I was just one with the people. And he ended up coming over to me and asking me to stick a pin in his map, which was really cool to see because it's a map of the world and there's pins from literally all over the world, which is so cool. And then at one point they turned off all the music and they're like, all right, let's go inside. And we all kind of marched in there together. And that was just a really special feeling. I've always really looked up to him and also Bengals captain. So coming on here a week after Bengal Gym is actually like really exciting for me because he's always one of those fans I've looked up to.
All right, so you've been in Cincinnati. I have to know, did you have Skyline Chili, and did you like it if you did?
Oh, no. So I'm actually a vegetarian, so I did not.
They have vegetarian chili, though.
They do. Oh, I did not know that. So good to know. I got to go back. I didn't, but I stayed in over the Rhine, and I went to go eat at a place called Bakersfield. I think it was Bakersfield. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I dream about that place, John. Like, I think about it. Their margaritas. I have a photo of myself like drinking out of the pitcher. Their margaritas were so good, and their tacos, their food was just amazing. So you should go there if you live in Cincinnati.
Yeah, you definitely got to over the Rhine at the right time.
And when you're there,
that's what I heard.
grab a Gansett.
Yes, do that.
All right. Well,
yeah, we were so behind on that quota.
Yeah, right. We'll get there. We'll catch up. Well, thank you for joining us. Yaz, I'm sure you've got some stuff to do to get ready, get pumped up for the game. You're already dressed and ready. And
did she give us a prediction?
Oh, what is your prediction? What do you think's gonna happen?
No, you know what? My game day superstition is I don't do predictions, you guys.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's been years. It might have been because I was just bad at it, but a few years ago I declared I'm not doing it. And that's funny because if I was to show you a photo of my DMs right now, they're all like, yes, prediction. I just like copy and paste the same message to everybody. I'm like, sorry, but I don't want to jinx them, so I can't. But whatever your prediction is, I think it's going to be right.
That's the support we need. That's the support we need.
Full and unquestioning support. I love it.
Well, thank you guys so much. I had a lot of fun.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, we did too. Appreciate it.
Awesome. We'll talk soon.
Yep. All right. That was Fan of the Week, Yaz. So we'll be having a fan on here every week. So make sure you come back and are checking that out. She appeared courtesy of Narragansett on the Narragansett fan hotline. So the other big thing going on in the team is the Bengals are really short at defensive tackle, and now they're facing the team with two excellent running backs in Chubb and Hunt. What do we think this defense can do? I mean, I think we're all excited about the young linebackers last week too, but none of the linebackers graded out very well in PFF. And they gave up quite a few yards to Austin Eckler. So what are our concerns with the defense?
Well, my main concern isn't necessarily with Chubb and Hunt, because those guys are going to get their yards specifically after contact, because that's Chubb's specialty. Wyatt Teller, J.C. Treader, Joel Bitonio, that's pretty much up there in terms of the best interior trio linemen in the game. And they had a really good game against the Ravens. Unfortunately, they couldn't run the ball that much because of how much that they were down. But it's up to DJ Reader to take on some of those double teams at the 2I. Christian Covington's going to play 40, 50 snaps in this game, depending on the rotation of those interior linemen, because they signed Amani Bledsoe to the roster. They elevated Freedom Akinmelodum. So they're going to have a rotation of guys who don't have a lot of experience going up against a trio that works really well with each other. So, it's up to those guys to hold their ground at the point of attack. the linebackers to stay in their fits. And Chubb's going to break tackles. He's going to get some big gains. It's just a matter of getting their hands on him as early as possible so that the whole defense can kind of collapse on him and try to get him down as quick as possible.
The pressure's on the offense, guys. The pressure's on the offense this week. 13 points is definitely not going to do it with those injuries. We can talk, and John is completely correct with the scheming and what the Bengals need to do up front. But bottom line is that the chances are high, given the injuries, that they're going to give up more than 16 points tonight. That's the odds are kind of telling you that, even though the Browns only scored 6 last week. But you tend to think short week, road game, a lot of injuries for the Bengals. I mean, things are kind of playing a little bit into the Browns' hands. So, the Bengals are going to need to score points, whatever that, whether that's Joe Burrow lighting it up, whether that's Joe Mixon having a much better bounce back game, and they play keep away a bit with the ball. The offense is going to need to step up. That's going to be a big key and score some points. And of course, their field goal kicker is going to need to come to play this evening. Let's hope he's loosened up those calves.
Yeah, and if you're scoring points on offense, that takes the ball out of Chubb's hands and it puts it in Baker's hands. And really, defensively, the Bengals played pretty well in the secondary last week. Darius Phillips had some rough moments, but William Jackson looked very good. Jesse Bates looked very good. No picks yet, but what do you think about that matchup, the passing game of the Browns versus this secondary?
Well, Matt, like you mentioned, Darius Phillips had some rough moments last week, and also in his first or second career start last year in Week 17, he gave up a couple of big plays to Odell Beckham Jr. and I think a touchdown as well to go along with those 2 interceptions that he had. So I think he's going to see a lot of Odell tonight. I know people have been bragging on him for last week because he was targeted 13, 14 times. He only had 3 catches. He's still Odell. He's still Odell, and if Phillips gives him any type of space to go deep on him, Mayfield has the arm to make that connection work if there is space. So it's up to Phillips to have a good bounce back game. They're playing a lot of single high looks on the defense with Bates as the free safety. So there's opportunities for Mayfield to throw it deep if Phillips gives up half a step. But I like how William Jackson played last week. I think to your point, he's starting on the path of a great year. And Mackenzie Alexander is pretty good in the slot, and he's going to see a lot of Jarvis Landry. But Phillips versus Odell may be the most underrated and biggest difference-making matchup in this entire game.
I think that the secondary, I gained a lot of confidence in the secondary based on what I saw last week, because going up against Keenan Allen and Mike Williams is not an easy task. They held both of those guys, I think, to a less than 150 yards total receiving. Keenan Allen was basically a non-factor all game, thanks to William Jackson for the most part. So Jesse Bates played lights out. I do think the talent level is slightly raised this week in terms of who they're going to be facing with OBJ and Jarvis. But, I still am pretty confident. And those performances in the secondary came with not great pass rush up front. So you're again missing Geno Atkins. You're missing Mike Daniels, who played okay, but didn't even show up in the stat sheet really. So, you're losing some guys that are there for interior push. And, I think that the secondary, even if the pass rush struggles again, I think they'll hold up a bit. But they do have a tall task again this week. So, again, I think the offense is going to need to score points. I think they're going to need to score a lot of points tonight, I think, because of these injuries that they're trying to mask.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing we didn't really talk about with the defensive front, with the defensive tackles, is now you can't really run that 3 defensive tackle look, or when you do, your personnel's getting even deeper and deeper. Kind of the same thing that they've got going on in the Browns secondary. If you put a lot of receivers in the field, they're gonna have trouble matching up with you, because all of a sudden they've already got their 5th best defensive back, 6th best defensive back on the field, or a corner, excuse me. So now you're getting real deep in that depth chart. So we'll take a look real quick here, looking back at last week and the high neighbor hit of the week. And now it's time for the Narragansett high neighbor hit of the game, brought to you by Narragansett. In the fourth quarter, the Chargers found themselves in 1st and goal on the 2-yard line, looking to go up by a touchdown. But Josh Vine was not about to let that happen. He filled a gap and made a great tackle for a loss of a yard. After Bynes shut down this run play, the Chargers threw 2 incomplete passes and were forced to settle for a field goal. This was a great play by Bynes in the backfield, and it's good for this week's High Neighbor hit of the game. I feel like that song should be on the soundtrack of some movie that The Rock is in.
Great work on the audio visual, Matthew.
Oh, the audio works.
The audio worked this time for me, but that's awesome stuff. Credit to you, my friend. You are much, much more adept at the audio visuals than I am on this.
I finally get to use my movie announcer voice.
Yeah, it was good.
Acceptable way.
It's good. You're going to do movie previews once movies are back.
That was you?
That was me.
Wait, Matt, holy shit. I didn't know you had that
What's
range.
good? What's funny? I do so over on Blogging the Boys, SB Nation's Cowboys page, I do a Cowboys play of the week on their YouTube station, and people in my family and my wife's family, like they see it and they hear my voice doing that, and they're like, that didn't sound like you. That's you. So it's funny you say that because apparently I have an announcer voice.
Good God. All right.
Hey, my brother's making an appearance again, second week in a row.
Number 2.
You wanted to say hey.
I love listening to you guys. Let's get a W tonight.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, so about to get going here. We got about 10 minutes till kickoff. So obviously the Browns struggled last week against the Ravens. Here's something that I find ridiculous. So the Bengals lost by, at the last second to the Chargers last week. And the Browns got smoked by the Ravens. And the Bengals come into this game as 6-point dogs. Now, that's not the worst part. The worst part is the Chargers are only 8.5 points back from their matchup against the Chiefs. I mean, come on. That's like, it can't be that close, right?
Wasn't the Bengals 49ers in week 2 last year pick 'em?
I don't. Oh, geez.
It's like I think there are a lot of games right now. The spreads are more than like 4 or 5 points. I think the Bengals was originally like 8. Now it's dropped down to 5.5. At least in the pigskin pick'em thing that I'm in ESPN. But I mean, I think it's because of how bad the Bengals offense was and that they're playing at Cleveland, so that I guess gives them a slight advantage. But there's nothing about the Browns right now for what they performed in week 1 that indicates that they're a touchdown favorite of any kind, and I don't think anybody would expect the Chargers to cover that spread.
I have no idea what to expect this week. I was at that Seattle game last year in week 1, and I came away from that game going, this is going to be a lot better season than I think a lot of people think. The defense played well against a stout Seahawks offense. They gave up some plays, they scored some points, and I kind of felt like, the coaching staff was doing a lot of adjustments and things just looked good. And we all know what happened from there. So, it's hard to gauge teams after week 1. Part of me is thinking, the Cincinnati Bengals will come out and score a lot of points, maybe have a coming out party for Joe Burrow and company. But, this line is 6 for a reason. I did get an email from Pete Watt, who runs he gives a lot of information on betting lines. A lot of people are taking Cleveland to at least not cover the spread, and a lot of folks are taking the Bengals to win outright in this game. In terms of their bets. So take that for what you will. I wish I could give a prediction or something like that with this game. I just do not know what to expect here tonight. This is a total wild card game for me.
Well,
don't copy. You put the 26-21 on the pod.
I did. An unconfident 26-21. But you're right. Call me out.
Well, before we move forward, I keep forgetting about the giveaway. So, hey, we tweeted out from the Orange Black Insider account. Retweet, like, and make sure you follow our sponsor Narragansett, and we can give you some Narragansett gear. You may be able to win that. So go ahead and make sure you're doing that. And hey, because I forgot to say it's almost the end of the show, you probably got a pretty good chance if you go on and do it right now. So if you want to win some free gear, make sure you check that out. But yeah, I mean, here's my thing, and this is kind of my brand too, is I'm always trying to look for I don't say this, this sucks or they can't win this game. I'm always like trying to figure out how can it be done. And I got really excited, and I got more excited over the course of the day because I see a path to it. I think, watching the All-22 and going back there, like, man, that spread stuff, that empty stuff, if they can get the ball off fast, they can tear this defensive secondary apart. Because with the receivers they have, they got nothing in Cleveland secondary. They got Denzel Ward and a bunch of corners I never heard of. So the matchups are going to be there. And like I said, if you want to put 5 receivers on the field, I mean, are they going to go, dollar quarter, put 6, 7, 8 DBs in the field? Do they have that many on their roster that are healthy? I don't know if they do. So, I mean, I would love to see that. And I think that's exactly like you were saying, Anthony, how you take the ball out of Chubb's hands. I think you got to score points, and it's just like, hey, Burrow, you're the man. We love you. It's time to grow up. It's time to be the man right now.
There's a lot of brave souls who listen to our show that have predicted the Bengals finish the winning record this year, potentially go to the playoffs. If they can't score at least 20, 24 points against the Cleveland Browns in the secondary, just phone the season in at this point.
That is a very good point, right? And they need to get the ball rolling at some point. They need to crack it. I mean, and at this point, with how long it took last year, if you could just get that monkey off your back, get a little confidence there and get ready to go. I mean, that'd be huge.
I've said this a lot, both on our podcast and whatever, and I guess we got to get out of here because kickoff's coming soon here. But, the primetime game thing. If Joe Burrow plays well, this team wins a game.
Huge.
I know it's early in the season. I know it's a stepping stone. It's a stepping stone for me based on previous regimes, previous quarterbacks. I know it's the Browns, and I know they're not the beacon of NFL success, but you win this game on the road, short week, after you kind of choked one away the last game. It's going to tell me quite a bit, I think.
I also think that you make that point about the Browns. Baker came into a Thursday night game due to injury, and that was Baker's coming out party as a rookie. So it would be great for Burrow to have a Thursday night against the Browns and be like, no, I'm really the dude in Ohio. Sorry.
That's what it's going to take. It was Deshaun Watson 2017, Mayfield 2018, Gardner Minshew last year. It's Burrow's time. All
right. So as Anthony was saying, we are approaching kickoff about 9 minutes. About 4 minutes away right now. Any last thoughts, guys, before we get out of here and grab a Gansett?
Just that I'll be doing post game afterward, so join me for that. Good. Thanks for taking the controls, gentlemen. Sorry I've been in and out here. As you know, I'm a little bit mobile on game days, so appreciate what you guys do, and let's get a win tonight.
I just saw Andrew
the post game, but yeah, check out the post game, especially on the East Coast. It's a little late. You can stay up with us though. We'll have a good time. Hopefully, we have something to celebrate. And out on the West Coast, you got lots of time to kill.
I just saw Andrew Sandeo. He has gray hair. If they don't throw it in like 10 times this game, it's a waste. And also, guys, if you're entering the giveaway contest, make sure you're at least 3 years younger than me, 21 years old. So let's do this responsibly, guys.
Yeah, let's make sure we're 21. We do have the Narragansett as the sponsor, so 21 and over for the contest to get that Narragansett gear. All right, well, make sure you're coming back and checking out Anthony for the post game, and hopefully everybody's in a good mood. We'll see you then.